Hi guys, Ali Duzette here, and today we're going to talk about solar returns because I just had my own solar return. So let's talk about it. What is a solar return? A solar return is the astrological term for it when the sun goes back to the place where it was when you took your first breath. You already celebrate your solar return, but you call it your birthday. Not all solar returns happen on your birthday. So for me, I was born at 2 in the morning. And so occasionally the sun goes back to 4 degrees Virgo and 11 seconds or whatever exact degree my sun is at. Sometimes it'll happen on the day before the day that I celebrate as my birthday. And so that can happen sometimes, but generally speaking, your solar return is your birthday. So very cool. I'm going to show you my chart from last year. Now that the year is complete, okay? So this is my solar return from 2021, August 27th. It happened at midnight that day, and I was in Springville. And so this is what my chart was all about last year. And looking at it in retrospect, I don't know, now I can see how it played out, where at the beginning of the year, I wasn't sure how it was going to play out. Every year on your birthday, you get a brand new astrological chart that you can use to figure out a little bit more about your year. It's kind of like a little weather forecast, you know? So when I saw my own solar return last year, I immediately noticed this right here at the ascendant, okay? This kind of gives you the overall flavor of your year, whatever sign it's pointing at. And this was pointing at 7 degrees of Gemini, right next to the 6 degrees of Gemini North Node. So I knew that my whole year was going to be about accomplishing my destiny, okay? The North Node is like your destiny in general, and on a solar return, your destiny for the year. So last year I knew like, okay, this is going to be a big year for my destiny. And then I also knew that, let's see if I can, I'll just show you on here. This is my natal chart on the outer ring. And so you can see that my natal Jupiter is at 4 degrees of Gemini. So I knew, okay, this is going to be triggering my natal Jupiter. Okay, my destiny this year is to activate my natal Jupiter. So what does that mean? I mean, I just said a whole bunch of like random words to you, right? But Jupiter is where you're going to find your blessings in a chart, and that's where you're going to find massive expansion. And so I kind of was looking at this and thinking, okay, I think what I'm looking at is a big expansion of my audience, basically, because my natal Jupiter is in the 11th house of groups of people and expanding influence with groups of people. And in Gemini, that is going to make it very conversational and very like friendly. Like I feel like we're friends and I just talk to my best friends on the internet all the time. And so that was a year for me talking to my friends on the internet all the time. And I think I accomplished that. And the thing is that I didn't even need to know that this was going on in this chart because it just happened naturally anyway. And actually on my birthday last year, some people found one of the videos I had made about the Pluto return and shared it to their audience. So on my birthday, it all kicked off with a bang and I got, maybe 1,000 new followers overnight or something, which was a lot of followers for me and still is. And it was just like on my birthday, all of a sudden something changed and it was time for my audience to expand. That Jupiter conjunct my transiting North Node with my solar return North Node. And that this was the year that was going to be all about that. So, okay, I saw all of this stuff going on in the 5th house of raising children. And I have 5 kids, right? And man, I did not think that this looked very fun. And indeed, it was truly not very fun, but it was fine. My daughter had just been diagnosed with ADHD. And so right after my birthday, I mean, maybe the next week, it may have started on the 29th, I can't remember, but right after my birthday, we enrolled my daughter in this brain balancing program where she'd have to report 3 times a week for an hour at a time, and it was half an hour away. So I'm like driving everywhere and so busy. And, here is Mars and Mercury. Mercury loves those short distance. Mars is really taking action. This is Hygeia, which is all about healing. And this is all in the sign of physical body healing in the house of raising your children. And so it was a time where okay, so this is Venus right here. This is the part of fortune, and this is Vesta. Busy, busy, busy. Venus governs motherhood. And so I found my treasure being extremely busy as a mother, driving my kids around so that they could find healing. That was basically the essence of my year last year, like expanding my audience on the internet, driving around like a crazy person. Like, geez, I spent so many hours in the car this past year driving my kids to places where they could experience like physical body healing, like physical therapy. And so that definitely came to fruition. And all last year as I was driving around, I was just having visions of that little slice of my chart, like, oh my gosh, well, at least I know it was my destiny, because you can look at this, you see how it creates this triangle right here, where this midheaven is kind of like your destiny as far as your impact on the world at large. This North Node is your destiny as it kind of pertains to like your inner soul. So I hope you can kind of feel the difference of that. And then this is motherhood. And so it was like, man, all of this busy driving stuff, but like, it's part of my destiny. Look at that blue triangle. So it kind of made me feel better about, everything that I was up to all of last year, because it was really busy. It was really hard, to be honest. I mean, I drove, gas prices were rising, and it was the worst. But my children really did benefit from it, and our whole family benefited from it. So no regrets, but it was hard. And that was all indicated right here. I had my little forewarning, like, yes, this is going to be busy, busy and not very easy, but it's going to be healing. And it was. This moon in Taurus, there's a calculation that you can do that makes this whole map actually a calendar, and you can assign calendar dates to everything there. And so I was just tickled that my moon day happened to be when I spoke to a standing room only audience at this big conference, and that was so fun. I just loved how that showed up, and it felt like, yes, it just felt so right. Like, of course it was my solar return moon day to go and do what I love, which is teach about everything weird to lots of people, all my best friends. So I just loved that so much. This is Neptune, actually exact Pallas. So Neptune is the psychic healer in the sign of the psychic healer, and Pallas is the kind of feminine strategic thinker. So this is Athena, who is, Mars is the god of war and Athena is the goddess of war. And so Mars jumps into war, and then Athena is sitting there. What is the best way to do this? Like, how are we going to strategically do this? And so this for me was in the house of groups of people. And I feel like, yeah, I've been definitely reaching out to groups of people about intuitive healing work very strategically. I've been really working hard to make sure that I'm teaching things in a way that are structured and make sense to people. So I just love that and how it showed up for me this past year. This is Chiron, the greatest, your greatest soul wound, but also the source of your greatest mastery. And so I think that showed up pretty clearly last year as far as, people that I had a lot of people making accusations about me and about my character and about my work. But it didn't really get me down. It didn't really bother me that much, but I feel like I did exhibit some level of mastery over that situation. When tempers were flaring because of my work, I was able to just say, guys, let's calm down. Like, people are allowed to have their own opinions. Nobody needs to like me. Nobody needs to believe my work. And I really believe that. You don't have to like me, and you don't have to like my work, and I can still like you even if you don't like me. And I do like you. This is Jupiter in Aquarius, blessing people, blessing lots of people, especially on the internet. And this is in my house of work. And so I think that that was like very clearly exhibited in my work last year. And then this is my midheaven in Aquarius, serving people on the internet. I'm hungry. So this Pluto and Saturn here in the ninth house was a spiritual calling to be reborn, especially with my work, and to step into my role as a master, Saturn, and to become more masterful with my work. And also, of course, face any unresolved karma, or like you could say the unrepented sins, that kind of stuff. This was a big spiritual calling to come face to face with the things that I haven't resolved from my past and resolve them. And so, I don't know, I haven't done a whole lot of really horrible stuff in my life, and I have worked really hard to clear up the bad stuff that I have done. And like, not that I'm perfect now, I'm definitely not, but like, you know, I don't have like massive problems that I'm working through, I feel like. And so anyways, I can see how this showed up, and I have had some big transformations with my work, transformations in how I serve people, and I love it. So that was kind of how my last year went, just for me personally. And so I'm going to show you my solar return from this year. That's not it. That's from when I was a kid. I was just messing around and looking at all these past solar returns. Here we go. Okay, this is my solar return from this year, and hula la, it looks like there is a lot of busyness going on. The first thing that we see immediately is all this stuff over here. My sun and moon are almost exact at 4 degrees and 5 degrees of Virgo, which means that this year it's a new moon, right? It was the new moon on the 27th. And so this year I have the flavor of the new moon with me for the entire year. So I'm like a little bit excited, a little bit terrified. I personally was born on the full moon, which is when the moon is absolutely as far away from the sun as it is possible to be. And so that's going to be a really different energy for me. And I don't actually know when the last time was that I had a solar return on a new moon. So I don't know. This is a new energy for me, and we'll see. But this is an energy of rebirth. It's a time for my inner self and my outer self to reset, my emotions and my thought processes to reset with that Virgo energy that I was born with so strongly. And this is in the first house of physical health. And so I'm really excited about that because I have just, I don't know, I've just been so sleep deprived and just hungry. I just have been eating to keep myself awake every day, just so I can like keep my kids from like, I just have to stay awake to watch my children, And so, and because of that, then I've eaten to stay awake. And I just feel like, oh my gosh, it's time for me to like get my postpartum body back, and I'm like, yes, I have some support for that. I ran a chart. I can't remember which year it was now, but there was one year where I dropped 50 pounds in like 6 months or something. And it was fabulous. And that is the experience that I based my weight loss course about. But I looked at my chart for that year, and I did have Mars exact my ascendant, and my midheaven was in Aries. And so I had like a lot of support to be healthy that year. But I'm excited to have support to be healthy again this year. Yes, hooray. Because I've been feeling like I've been like floating through, just trying to stay awake. This is my ascendant at 20 degrees of Leo, which is kind of a critical degree of Leo. The fixed sign critical degrees are kind of like straddled. They're like both 20 and 21 degrees. So like 20 degrees and 57 seconds would count as a critical degree of Leo. And look, that Venus and part of fortune exact at 19 degrees and 17 minutes of Leo, so close to the ascendant. This is a year that it will be my treasure, X marks the spot, the buried treasure, to really be in my feminine self and finding my treasure in motherhood, and I think also in teaching about feminine principles, because I've been studying a lot about this and I'm working on a book about it. And so hopefully that will come out this year, and we will all find greater joy in our polarity, and that will be great. And so that, all of that is a really big bunch of energy right there at the kind of surface of my chart. Whatever's going on right here in a chart, that's the part that kind of everybody in your life interacts with every day. It's the part of you, it's like the skin of you, okay? So if you think of your sun is like your brain, okay? You think about your moon is like your heart. And this ascendant right here is like the skin and your body that is like facing the world. Like people can't look at you and see your brain or your heart. They can see how those things show up, but what they actually see is your face, like your eyeballs, your mouth, your nose, your skin. And your skin, all of that is the ascendant. And so anyways, a lot going on there that will probably be on display, you know? So very interesting, and we'll just have to see how it shows up. So when we look at this chart, this red thing right here is a really big deal. This is a grand cross. And so typically astrologers consider grand crosses to be bad. And I don't. I think that they give a lot of structure to a chart and can make it kind of a lot more balanced in a way, because I mean, the example that I always give, and I don't have a string with me right here, but here is a towel that my baby was playing with earlier. So if you think of like, just imagine that the edge of it is my example, but you know, all of these different lines and connections, like they don't have the tension, right? The trines and the sextiles, they don't have tension, and the red lines are tight, okay? And that's why people consider them negative, because there's a lot of tension there. But if you think of it like a tightrope, you can't walk on something unless there's a lot of tension. You need the tension, and the tension is what makes it strong enough to walk upon. You know, I just heard them in my mind, like walking on water. If you want to walk on water, it really helps to have a strong set of oppositions, squares. That is what I think. That's just my opinion. So I don't go into this looking like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the worst year. I have a grand cross. I think that I mean, certainly with that level of tension, it can be rough. Like whenever there's a grand cross in a chart, it can indicate that things can be difficult. But if you can figure out how to activate all of the four corners at the same time, then it just tightens up everything and gives it a lot of structure. It's a trampoline, you know, it's that trampoline that it's so tight that you can bounce on it, right? And so that's what I see here is a trampoline. The four corners are Saturn in Aquarius, mastery in serving people, especially on the internet, and also in a one-on-one capacity. So maybe, you know, I've been thinking about reopening personal sessions, and so I don't know, maybe I will, maybe I won't. But this is the house of one-on-one relationships, so that's why I mentioned that there. And then over here, of course, the ascendant, Venus and part of fortune, in opposition. So possibly some struggles with balancing motherhood and work. Oh, gee, where have I heard that before? I don't know, my entire life. And also all of our lives. All the moms know, they all get it. And then down here on the other end, we have Hygeia, which deals with daily routines in the fourth house. So like, how am I going to make my house work? How am I going to make my daily routines work? Yes, South Node dealing with generational patterns of whatever household dysfunction I am carrying with me from the past, from pre-Earth life, from my own childhood, from generational stuff. This is a year to be dealing with that, whether I like it or not. Opportunities are going to flow up for me to choose into restructuring how I manage my household. And then up here, my North Node, so my destiny for the year is really close to the midheaven. So my personal destiny and then like my destiny as far as how I'm going to impact the world, they're right next to each other. So that's telling me that, you know, when there's going to be these conflicts about work and home, because right here we have motherhood and being kind of like a teacher. And then over here is going to be household routines. And then, but up here is my destiny, which is in the house of work. My destiny is to work and to serve other people, basically. But it might show up in a really unexpected way. This is Uranus next to the North Node. And so expect the unexpected. And so that is what I will do. And we'll just have to see what happens this year. This is Mars now at 4 degrees of Gemini. And so hopefully you remember last year, this was conjunct my ascendant, and my natal Jupiter is at 4 degrees of Gemini. So this year I have Mars exact my natal Jupiter. And so for how this all lines up, this just looks like it's going to trigger a lot of proactive behavior, especially with how I interact with all of my best friends, you know, on the internet. Again, so this is a big support for that as well. Yep, still got that Neptune and Juno conjunct in Pisces, very psychic energy. And just for the record, you have that too. This year, last year, everybody, you have had an extra helping of Neptune energy in Pisces in your solar return chart. So everyone in the world, that's not special for me. It is special for all of us. We all are having that extra helping of Neptune in Pisces, intuitive awakening energy. Very exciting. Yeah, my spiritual calling this year is to face my trauma around starting more things than I finished, and any emotional stuff I haven't worked through around experiencing conflicts with, you know, people around me or like just in general. So that will be interesting. Now you can also see this blue thing right here is called a grand kite. And it's pointing up here at this. So this is just another double confirmation. And so we have this grand cross, we have this grand kite, and they're all pointing up here at the midheaven and the North Node and Uranus. So expect the unexpected, but my destiny is to do my work, you know, my healing work that I'm here to do. That is the double, triple witness. I've got to do my job this year. Right? Got to do my healing work. And what is going to make that possible? Setting really good boundaries in my home. That's this guy. And being really intuitive when I navigate my marriage. So anyways, woo, there you go. That was a very quick look at my personal solar return chart. So whenever you book, well, at least me, for a solar return reading, that is what I would be looking at, except way more in depth and running the actual calendar for you. And what I did for myself yesterday, I sat down and made my whole calendar of this chart, and then I put it in my phone. So as I go through the year, it's been really fun. I did this last year as well, for the first time, but like I was in the middle of speaking at that conference, and I get that call on my phone, or like my little ding, like it's your moon day, like your moon is triggering. And I was like, of course it is, you know? So it's just really fun to be able to look at your year through that lens and kind of give yourself a little heads up. So this morning I just got a beautiful birthday present from a friend from the internet, one of my best friends. And earlier in the year, it was her birthday, and her husband asked if I could send her a quick birthday video. And so I did. And I kind of like hate to say it because I don't have time to like do this for everyone, but believe me, I would if I could. But I gave her a tiny, tiny solar return look at her year, and just gave her like the super Cliff's notes of like what is going up, what's going to happen with your year. And so she just sent me this beautiful message of the update and how it all played out for her. Even though it was just like this tiny mini session, knowing what to look out for, she's been able to be so much more conscious about what she's doing. You know, just like for last year when I knew that I needed to take my kid into physical therapy, and then I have all of this stuff going on in the part of the chart that deals with actually driving children to a place where their bodies can be healed. Like it's right there in the chart. And so as I was doing that, and I could have been tempted with like the gas prices and like, I'm so busy and I have so much stuff to do. And I don't know, am I a bad person? I would way rather be hanging out with you on the internet than driving for 2 hours a day to like get people to and from school and to and from therapy and all this stuff. But I knew that it was the right thing to do. You know, I knew like, okay, this is written in the stars. I'm like definitely doing the right thing. Like I was going to do this anyway. You know, I made the appointments well before I knew what my solar return was going to say. But it was just a second witness. And that is really the thing about star charts. You don't need them. Like, guess what? You are going to experience your perfect life experience with or without having any knowledge of what was written in the stars for your life. You don't need that. All that you need is to do your life, you know, that's all. Like we don't have to know about all of these energies that are happening. They happen whether or not we're aware. And the big difference is that when you are conscious of it, you just have that extra witness in your heart, you know, no, I really am doing the right thing. You know, for me, it's just removed a lot of the questioning because I can look at my life and say, it makes sense. Like, okay, I guess everything makes sense, instead of sitting there and wondering, you know, questioning, like, is this really worth it? Yeah, I think it's worth it. You know, it was written in the stars. I don't know. But these things, of course, never take away from agency or anything like that. We always have a choice. And it's just really amazing how things happen for us, you know, without our conscious involvement. We don't have to know anything. All we have to do is show up, breathe, live our lives, do our best, you know, examine our own hearts for what is wrong and start to fix it, right? And when we do that, everything works out exactly the way that it needs to. Even if it's not the way that we wish that it was, it is still exactly the way that it needs to be for our healing, right? For our overall healing, for our maturation as spiritual beings and embodied beings, okay? So anyway, thanks for being here to listen to me talk about my own self, but I wanted to do this for me so that I could sit down and really analyze my own thing, and I just thought it was interesting and wanted to share it with you. So there you go, and I hope that you have a good day. I am looking at making some daily videos for Mercury retrograde, so we'll see if that happens. Hopefully it will, and I need to make a video about the Shemitah as well, because that is coming up right around the corner, and it will be good to be aware of it. September 26th. You can mark your calendar if you want. September 26th, Shemitah. Okay, I'll talk to you later, guys. I think you're the best.